Hello and welcome to Five Writers, 5 Minutes. We are a podcast and a YouTube channel of five authors who talk about our writing process in the hope of inspiring your writing as well. My name is Zanny Louise.
I'm Sarah Armstrong.
I'm Nathan Luff.
I'm Deborah Abella.
I'm Leanne Tanner.
And I forgot to say today we're being joined by Nathan Luff. So welcome, Nathan. We're very happy to have you.
Nathan.
Sorry, just throwing you in the deep end there. So today our topic is how to show characters emotions. I love this topic because, well, for me, I think the process of reading a book is feeling a book. Like I want to be inside of a book and I want to go on a journey with the character and feel everything that the character feels. For a minute, I forget I exist and I become someone else. And that's why I think books are so powerful. It's like this actual empathy machine where we literally become something else or someone else. And I think that's just such a powerful way of understanding other people's experiences. So when I write emotion, I guess I'm trying to, well, this is pretty basic, but I'm trying to show it, through the character's actions, how they interact with other people, what they say, rather than saying how they feel as such. And often I think to remember that characters are quite complex. So sometimes there's layers of feeling. So even though a character might be quite excited, they also might feel quite nervous, and that can kind of look the same. So my daughter used this lovely phrase in one of her pieces of writing, which was lemonade legs. And I have stolen it before because I think it's so wonderful, but it kind of describes that feeling of being excited and nervous. And like, there's a lot of feelings you can't quite articulate. I was thinking about this in relation to my character, Cora, and she's at her grandfather's funeral. And of course, at a funeral, you do feel a range of things. But one of the things she's feeling is sheer terror because she is the only person who is there to speak at her grandfather's funeral. And she doesn't want to leave him in the lurch. So she's going through all of these experiences, most particularly dread. And she gets up there on the lectern shivering and tries to speak on behalf of her granddad and just cannot. And so I really wanted to get inside of her experience and feel what that was like. And yeah, hopefully it works on the page. Sarah, what are you thinking about when you're addressing the character's emotions?
It's something I don't actually work a lot on until kind of about my third major draft, I would say. I'm a little bit prone to underwriting emotion in my early draft. It's just sort of how I do it. It's not something I necessarily find super easy, and I have to work at a bit. I think the major way I work at it is bodily reactions. Of course, you've got what the person's thinking, if you're in their point of view, you've got what they're doing with their body, you've got what they're saying to people. Like, there's all sorts of ways to show it, but I try and concentrate, because this is the bit I find hardest, I guess, on what's happening inside their body, because that's how I mostly feel emotions, me personally. So what I'm doing is basically, I have to really be clear on what the emotion is. Like, what's the subtlety of it? Is it a sense of betrayal, or is it disappointment, or, what exactly is it? And then I try and conjure that feeling in myself. So I'm sitting at my desk writing, or sometimes in bed, because I write in bed too. And I'm like, going into this I'm trying to conjure these feelings inside my own body, and it's quite, sometimes I can feel really scared. I make myself feel really scared, particularly with the current book, because there's a lot of fear for this character. I'm putting him in some tricky situations. I'm asking myself, how does it feel like? What's it feel like in my gut? How would I describe that? And what does it feel like? Is my skin tingling, or is it prickling? It's this thing of trying to nut out the exact physical sensations of an emotion. That's the thing I think I work most on, and I try and layer that with some of the other ways of conveying emotion.
How about you, Nathan?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same, and I do that thing of contorting yourself in your writing space, trying to then put that into words. But also for me, it's about the little details that add up. So little things like fidgeting, playing with your nails, all those sort of things really help us feel how a character's feeling. It's not just the big reactions to things, it's all those little things along the way. But for me, one of the things that is the most challenging is I find I'm always writing unreliable protagonists who are writing in first-person narrative. And so if they're not being truthful to themselves, how does the reader then know that they're not being truthful? And so it's finding those little things where often it's the body betraying them. So, they'll start to shake a little bit and someone will notice a little thing, or sometimes it's them babbling or the avoidance of a certain thing. So for me, that's the biggest thing is trying to give enough clues so the reader knows, because I'm actually lying to the reader, but I need them to know I'm lying. So that's often my biggest challenge. Yeah.
That's clever. That's actually good to bring up too, because sometimes your main characters aren't telling the truth because they're human, and that's sometimes what we do. There's a John Green quote that basically says, "We read to understand and to be understood." And I love that quote. And I think that's part of the reason that I read. So it's our job then to create characters that make people feel angry, sad, happy, whatever. And so I think one of the big challenges that we've got as writers too is, we're writing about, fear and happiness and anxiety and whatever, but we need to be able to do this in a way that's also not cliched. And so my first draft, sometimes I will actually just throw it down on the page, that sort of cliche. But then what I want really is in my subsequent drafts, it's like Sarah was saying, so by my sort of third draft, I'm really kind of then, my plot's all done, I'm picking on, am I showing that character's emotion in a unique way? So am I, first of all, successful in it? But am I, if someone's stomach churned, like, I don't want to read the phrase, their stomach churned. I really never want to read that phrase again. But we all know the feeling of a stomach churning. But how can you and I write that in a way that isn't cliched and actually very particular to your character? Because each character feels fear in a different way, and each character will feel fear in a different situation in a different way. So you have to get really pernickety and really kind of precise in how you describe it, and create these 3D characters where they're sometimes brave and sometimes not. Sometimes they're honest and sometimes they're total liars. So I want a 3D character, and I want to do it in the least cliched way I can.
I love that. How about you, Leanne?
I want to think about, is this a character who shows their emotions openly or who tries to hide them? Because sometimes, if it's somebody who doesn't show their emotions openly, then a blink in the middle of the sentence might be all that character needs, or they might swallow, or they might clench their fists, and that might be just that really small thing, like Nathan said, might be enough to give you a clue. I think often we don't need to spell it out, or we don't need to hit the reader over the head with it. And that sometimes less is more. Again, like everybody else, I think about my own emotions and whereabouts I feel them. What does jealousy feel like? What does fear feel like? And I think this is something that writers do, kind of like, we can be in quite extreme situations and we're sitting there thinking, okay, now I must remember what this feels like so that I can use it in my next book. There's a line in Fledgwitch where something terrible happens, and I wrote, her words were like ice in Brim's heart. And I really like that line, because I think it tells us so much without saying Brim was frightened and horrified and all those sorts of things.
Absolutely. Well, I was thinking that while you were talking, is that we can use metaphor and references almost in the background to infer emotion without having to slam our reader over the head with it. So, for example, you can set a scene in a desolate landscape and bring the landscape in, and that enhances the character's feelings. So you can do little sneaky things like that to make your reader feel something, which will enhance your character's feeling as well. So thank you for listening today. Thank you for partaking. I hope you took something from this and it's able to enhance your writing. Check out our other episodes on our YouTube channel or our podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.